Hey, it's Password Dots, and today I'm making some Animal Crossing PCs. So why don't you grab some Brewster's coffee and snuggle up in your favorite KK Slider concert onesie, and we'll talk about some Animal Crossing and stuff. Okay, here we go! So these dolls were commissioned by a friend of mine who asked me to make characters of his and his wife's profiles from Animal Crossing New Horizons. And I'm just basing my doll off of the reference photos that he had sent me. This video won't be so much as a step-by-step tutorial, more of just a quick build while I kind of, go over a couple of tiny little things about the process, but mostly I'm going to be just sort of talking about Animal Crossing. I hope that you'll find it satisfying watching these two characters come together. I certainly had a lot of fun making them. I tried a lot of new things in these builds, learned a lot, and I love Animal Crossing. I loved it from the first time I played it on the GameCube up until now with New Horizons. So, this really, while it was a commission, it was also a project of passion, just to see whether or not I could create these two characters accurately. So you can see here I'm starting out with a light tan or the beigey colored sock. Everything I'm doing is doubled, so to make two characters, so you see a lot of pieces sitting around there, which look kind of like scrap at this point, but we'll see them all come together eventually. So let's just get dug in. I'm excited to talk about Animal Crossing. I'm eager to discuss this game. It has been out for a little while now, and updates have been rolling in, and then also just sort of get into the things that I would like to see, not really in this game, but likely in the next installment. I know that seems a little crazy to, think about a game that could possibly be 8 years away. I'm not sure. So I'm not going to list features that aren't in New Horizons at the time of this recording because honestly, I expect popular features from New Leaf to return by the end of this game's update timeline. And I love everything New Horizons has done to improve Animal Crossing. With that said, there are thoughts I've had about this game, some thoughts I've had since the first installment, that could further push this series into that living world experience that we know and love it for. Or at least I know and love it for. The thing that I love most about the Animal Crossing series as a life sim is that it feels so alive compared to other life simulators. All of the characters are sort of endearing with their own quirky little personalities. Everything exists on its own sort of timeline and limited events. But that said, I still think there are better ways that we can further hone in on that theme. So, these are a couple of just my thoughts, and they probably align with you, but we'll see. So, I think one of the biggest changes that Animal Crossing needs is to its villagers. Of course, they could add new villagers, and they do add villagers periodically, sometimes new species, which is great. We can definitely get some more, though. I mean, I've seen great suggestions online, like a bat villager, which would be ideal from players who are often playing at night. Like, that would be an interesting mechanic, to have villagers which are nocturnal. I'd seen a mock-up of moth villagers as well, and I mean, if we can catch frogs and octopuses while living alongside giant frogs and octopuses, I think we can add a bug. Well, I guess thinking about it, the bug catching tournament might get a little muddy, and they probably would be banned from the museum. But you could still add plenty of others, like cute little lizards, little gecko, something like that. If Tournimer isn't a big part of the game anymore, I don't see any reason not to add some turtles while we're at it, And thinking about it, I do feel kind of bad for our friend Porter, who doesn't have anything to do on this island since, there's no train. So I think why not make him a villager? Let him get a little Island life. Have some little R&R. Have a good time. Have some laughs. I mean, what else are you doing with them, Nintendo? What are you thinking over there? But species, I mean, that's kind of the least of my concerns. I spend way more time thinking about the personalities. And by spend way more time, I mean sometimes I have just laid awake at night thinking that there just could be something a little bit more. And I mean, we've had 2 new villager personalities added since the first game, and there aren't even that many of those. I don't think that there need to be any new personalities per se. It's just that when you can have 10 villagers living on your island and there are... Hold on. I think I know this number, but I've got to check real quick. Yes, 8 distinct personalities shared among over 300 villagers, which is less when you consider each personality is gender quantified. I'm sure I speak to every fan's frustration when I say how lame it is to have an interesting conversation with O'Hare and then go next door to his gay lover, Klaus, and you have the exact same conversation. Or when Apple moves out and is replaced by Puddles, and it feels like, oh, cool, this feels totally different now. What a diverse world we live in. Ooh, okay, so wait, let's discuss the dolls for a minute here. So I'm using some embroidery thread to get the facial details punched in here. I'm not much of an embroiderer. It's always intimidated me, and I think it's just the, you know, all the special loops that create certain patterns, and you have to sort of conceptualize that in your brain before getting on to the physical aspect of it. My brain has never been very good at, I guess you'd just call it pattern recognition. So a lot of these things take a lot of hard practice for me, and I don't get a lot of opportunities to practice some of these things. But this is called the chain stitch. It worked really well to create these thick outlines for the eyes that you kind of get with Animal Crossing player characters, as well as the mouth, which ended up really cute. And then you can see, because the top of the head is going to be covered with hair anyway, that's where I can sort of hide that embroidery thread. Usually you're embroidering on like a, you know, a loop, so all of that stuff is sort of behind a, you know, a piece of muslin or what have you. Come play with us, Ben. Forever and ever and ever. These 2 look kind of like Phil and Lil. Y'all remember that classic Bop Rugrats? Were you all around when they did the Rugrats All Grown Up? I kind of, this sunk the whole thing. Also the movies, I guess, kind of sunk the whole thing. And then they did that, that crossover with the Wild Thornberries. It's a little bit weird. Back to the Crossers. Can I just say that this simple addition of little button eyes made a world of difference in establishing the personality of these dolls. Look at how much more endearing that became. I usually save the button eyes, or eyes in general, for last, because I think that those are sort of the window to a doll's soul on top of, you know, a person's, or anyway. But, you know, I did it here just because it's a bit more convenient for the build. We got some hair, or t-shirts rather, that I bought from Target for about $5 each, and they're really solid color for what we're working with here. Now you're seeing I'm patterning out the hair for our female doll, and I didn't really know how I was gonna handle that wavy swoop at the bottom, so you see I'm just sort of muddling that out. I haven't done this before, so it's new territory for me, learning as I go, and charging money for it. Isn't that the way it should always be? But I'm gonna make the hair longer than I think it needs to be, and adding no real dimension to it at first. That's gonna be sort of sculpted as I sew it. So, you know, you'll see here it's basically just a rectangle with rounded edges, and this this little tooth pattern here for the 2 sides. So it'll be let's see, 5 pieces overall. So 1 for the back, 2 for the sides, and then 2 for the front for the bangs. These pieces definitely don't look like much when they're flat, but once you stuff them a little bit, which you'll see I'm about to do here, once you get them stuffed, it adds some really nice dimension to them, and they're going to look great. I mean, you don't have to believe me right now. You'll just see when they go on there. They look great, just like really good. I don't want to, you know, I'm not a, I don't feel myself too often, but I was really excited with the way they turned out. So, you know, if you have anything to, man, I really should write a script. This is the thing I really love about my doll making process. You know, most dolls are made with patterns out of, you know, a bolt of fabric, and, you know, I don't really do patterns because, as we had discussed earlier, pattern recognition, haha. But you see here, I've got this very soft t-shirt fabric that I'm sort of pinching, and then on the inside of this hair, I'm doing a ladder stitch to pull, you know, two ends of this hair together. So we're forming kind of like a bend of a knee, and then we're bringing that whole thing together. And then on the outside, we'll use like a running stitch to sort of pull the whole thing up from the front. And it ends up getting this nice swoopy pattern that I would not have known how to do with a regular patterned fabric. A thing that I really don't like about a lot of mass-produced dolls are all of the seam lines. I just think that there are better ways to produce all of these things, so I strive to do that. And I think that even though you're paying a little bit more for, you know, a t-shirt or a sock than you would a, you know, piece of fabric bought from a fabric store, the benefit of that stretchiness, of the curve of the knit in like a sock or a t-shirt, I think that that really allows you to sculpt and work with the sort of curveballs that your mind throws you, and it leads to a really interesting product at the end. So what you think about that? I want to get back to discussing Animal Crossing, but I know that, you know, another part of the tutorial is coming up here really soon. So I just want to briefly ask, what type of villager would you like to see? What animal do you want to see come into Animal Crossing next? Let me know in the comments below. Now you'll see here I've cut out two little tulipy patterns and one teardrop pattern for the boy's hair, stuffing those individually and layering them on. Now he's got this undercut with a fade, so to achieve that look, I'm coming in here gently with a Prismacolor marker. It doesn't have to be Prismacolor. I've just had these for years when I used to do a lot of physical drawing. It's come in here with a little bit of dark brown and some colorless blender, and it takes a couple of layers to get that really sunk in there, but with a little bit of patience and some attention to detail, honestly, I was surprised at how well it turned out, because I was a little bit concerned that it was just going to end up ruining the head and I was going to have to start over. But it turned out nicely. It's got a really nice fade to it that really matches what you see in the games. Yeah, I use Prismacolor markers on my dolls all the time. So anyway, back to Animal Crossing for a sec. Of course, we don't want to change what we love about certain characters by giving them completely different personalities. Well, excusing the fact that they already did that by making cranky villagers into more of like sleepy grandpas, and making lazy villagers talk to bugs now, and for some reason making snooty villagers almost vaguely tolerable. But without changing these characters too much, we can give some variety by turning each personality into sort of a personality tree. So we have a base personality like a jock villager, and then they can be either smart or dumb. They can be strict or aloof. We can have a snooty villager who is either selfish or motherly. And you know, this game has come so far in its inclusivity, I think it's time to stop restricting personality to gender overall. And I mean, maybe even making the gender more fluid in this game between male and female. But I don't know, but how much are y'all willing to get into that conversation? Expanding the personalities, that's a big improvement that I think is long overdue. I know that adds a lot of extra work to the writers, but I mean, come on, this is a game about talking to people. So when the character's dialogue becomes predictable after a few months of play, I honestly think it's time to reevaluate. Okay, so here's a point where I need to stop and address what is happening in front of you, because I bought these stretchy denim jeggings thinking they would stretch over the feet as I sewed them, but that wasn't the case. They weren't stretchy enough, so I realized that it was really just better off to cut off the legs and insert them that way. There you go. There we go. I think he's recovering fine. He'll be okay. And now we've got plenty of room to, you know, string these up and pull them through the bottom. And that way we can kind of sew the whole thing on piecemeal. We've also got some embroidery going on. Get that nice denim stitch line, since we kind of lost it when cutting up the jeans from their big size. And then we sew the pants on. And then we continue talking about Animal Crossing. Puppy, get out of here. Puppy, I'm trying to record the show. I know you can look at me that way and it's really cute, but I'm trying to record the videos. No, you can't sit in my lap today. Oh no. Oh goodness. Okay. Yeah. No, I got it. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Don't lick me, though. Don't lick me. Actually, okay, I want to talk about Animal Crossing more, but I still need to address a little bit that's going on here. So I'm adding in the front pockets, and I'm building some back pockets to stitch onto here. These additions were totally unnecessary. I don't think that they are really seeable in the final product after the shirt goes on, but you know, just a little word of caution. If you can see that something's not going to be necessary in the end, then maybe you can skip that. I didn't skip that, so here I am with a whole bunch of the extra little flares and odds and ends that no one's going to see. Speaking of something that you won't see, the girl here has a white t-shirt underneath their career jacket. So since you're only seeing the front of it, I decided to you know, skip a whole bunch of frou-frou and literally just make like the front of a tank top. I think that's sufficient. All right, there we go. And now I will continue to give my opinions about Animal Crossing. So listen up, Nintendo. Now, another thing that I see people discuss all the time is being able to cook food, and I feel that, absolutely. It's possible that that could be in a New Horizons update in the future, or it could have happened now, depending on the time you're watching this, in which case this is totally out of date and I suck, and I should stop. I should just stop. But being able to interact with the world in a more personal way is always a bonus. What I want more than being able to interact with things as a player is watching villagers interact with things on their own accord. We have more of that than we ever have before in New Horizons. Seeing them look at the bugs with a magnifying glass, that's super cute. Singing next to the stereo, oh, it's wonderful. But let's have villagers get snacks out of a snack machine, you know? Let's have them use the water fountain. You know, not just click it and watch it. Let's have them like take a little sip, a little sippy sip. Let's have them pull themselves up on the pull-up bar. Let's have them, you know, that big, cool rock wall that you can set outside is totally useless because you can't even use it. Long story short, adding ways for villagers to interact with the island would make me, as a player, want to log on every day and see what my neighbors are getting up to. See what their business is. As it is right now, you know, you log on and you're like, oh, what is Spike going to be doing? Oh, he's either going to be in his house just sitting on the floor instead of using his furniture to read a magazine, or he's going to be walking around within 20 feet of his house and smelling the flowers. That's all he's going to do. He's not going to be stopping over to play on your jungle gym. He's not going to be going to your beautifully arranged outdoor canyon cafe. Just makes me sad. I put a lot of work into that cafe. And while on the subject of interacting, I always liked how you can change your relationship with Sable over time. But, I mean, what if we could build up a rapport with any special character in the game and give them gifts or invite them over? Oh boy, if you haven't celebrated your birthday on Animal Crossing yet, I recommend you do so, because it feels so nice when you get letters from villagers that you, or special characters that you wouldn't normally get letters from, like Mabel or Tom Nook, just letting you know that they, you know, that you mean something to them. If we could just invite them over to our house, or if we could let them take a frickin' break every once in a while, that brings me to a matter that I'm sure will be debatable, because it actually kind of straddles the dichotomy of Animal Crossing's two natures. So, okay, Animal Crossing is supposed to be alive, right? That's kind of the whole deal in the first game, was that internal clock. So, you know, time passes, holidays come and go, villagers move out, bugs and fish go out of season, shops have business hours. So, you know, you've got that, but at the same time, the game doesn't want to restrict you from certain things, like you get a guaranteed number of wasps in a tree, you get, you know, 1 money rock per day. You will always be able to interact with certain characters at certain hours. But if I can be so bold, I think the mathematical reliability of certain gameplay elements detracts from that living aspect of the game. Let's say at 1 p.m., maybe Tom Nook should take a nap, and he's not available until 2 p.m. Isabelle takes a lunch at noon. I mean, of course, she will stop and tell you your island rating if you ask her, but don't, because it's rude. Okay? She's a people pleaser. You don't take advantage of her generosity. Or, you know, this one really gets me, is when Label comes to the island, let her sisters come out and take some time to go see her. She's never around. She's been distant for so many years, and now she's gallivanting around the world. She's trying to find herself. She's done this, she's done that. And now when she comes to visit this little island that her sisters have going on, they should take a tiny little break. It's not going to affect anything. You don't really need them in the shop, besides just to take your money. So let them take a little siesta to go talk with their sister. What I'm saying is the slight inconvenience of these characters not being around to provide the service you need for that small window would be far outweighed by the gratification of you being in a world that feels alive. No one needs to donate fossils at midnight. Let Blathers come out and light some sparklers. Please! He just wants to see the fireworks! Now, I don't want anyone to think these wants are to detract from how great of a game New Horizons is. I love it. The only reason I stopped playing it every single day is because there are just too many good games in the world, and also I need more time available to make videos. It's really important that we take a look at the things we love and see what can be improved about them. Not to be overly critical, but to appreciate what you have while also establishing the things that you want. Alright, this final bit of the build I want to discuss here. So I've got to make these black rimmed glasses, right? So I'm going to make the little pattern out of there. And ultimately, I decided to go with some black felt. Now, you know, felt is a pretty standard crafting material. It is soft, it's pliable, it doesn't really need to be sewn. You know, the crafting of it's not prone to fraying. So I glued 2 pieces of that together and cut it up into a nice shape. Now, of course, it doesn't give the shine that I really wanted out of that pair of glasses to make it look sort of plasticky. So I'm using the Fabrifuse, the fabric glue that I'd been using to tack a couple of things together on this project, and I just coated the whole thing and then blasted it with a hairdryer just to quick dry it. And it came off with a nice glossy texture to it, and it gave a little bit of extra dimension to the doll. And then after a tiny bit of fuzz cleanup, they're ready to ship out. It was a fun project that's taught me a whole lot, and I think produced some really nice results that, I hope that they were very happy with. I hope that, maybe you want to try some of this for yourself. And if you do try it, then be sure to let me know in the comments down below, and let me know if there's anything that I can help you with. I'm always creating new things and wanting to see other people create things. So with that said, everybody keep making stuff, keep playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.